Hello, Tracy here with another scrapbooking process video. Today I'm going to be doing a pocket page, and this 2-page spread is going to cover my holidays. This is the first of what I think is going to be 2 parts of this video. The first page spread covers Christmas Day, and then what I think will be the second page, I haven't done it yet, is going to be the days after Christmas as well as New Year's Eve. It might be 2 more pages after this. I'm not entirely sure. I do have some ephemera here that I've been collecting, some wrappers and packaging, and that is a COVID test, not a pregnancy test. I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to put the COVID test in my project life, but it's the kind of thing I might hang on to for, future reference. I have pre-cut my photos. I print my photos. My standard horizontal photos are printed at 4x6, but any smaller photos, like photos that I don't want to necessarily be the center of attention, I will print to 3x2 so that they fit in a 3x4 pocket. And then any vertical photos, I usually will print those at the 3x4 size so that they fit nicely into pockets. Sometimes I have like that screen capture there of Desmond Tutu. That is a little bit narrower than 3x4 because of the orientation of my phone when I do screen captures. But for the most part, that's what I print my photos at. So I have some stickers and packaging and that sort of thing as well. I just didn't want to forget what day that was, so I just looked it up on my phone and put it on the back of that photo. Now what I did here was I organized my photos by the day. So I have Christmas Day right here in my hand, and it looks like Christmas Day is probably going to be able to be spread across both of these pages. So I also have a couple of other kind of stories that aren't necessarily photos, but they're relevant to put on Christmas Day. And then I have another pile of photos from a get-together that we had with our Bubble family and another get-together that we had with our Bubble family. And so I'm putting those just in piles above my workspace, just kind of change the angle there so that you could see what I've got, what I'm working with here. And pulled out an Ali Edwards kit that I had in my stash that I didn't know why I had it, but it's not the right color scheme. It's very autumn colors. So I'm actually going to try to do this without using any holiday themed embellishments. The reason for that is simply laziness. There's no kind of like creative challenge or anything here. I just didn't want to go downstairs and pull out my Christmas stuff. I had packed away all my Christmas stuff. I thought I was done with Christmas, and then I realized, wait a minute, I didn't scrapbook Christmas. So I made some cards and stuff, but I didn't actually scrap the holidays. So I'll show you what I do here. Basically, I went through my Ali Edwards cards and picked out anything that might be relevant, including anything green or red, but there wasn't a whole lot of red. So I have a small stash of pocket cards, of Project Life cards. I only kept my ones with squared corners. I didn't keep any rounded corner ones. And I have them ordered by color. So as you can see, I just pulled out my 3x4-inch red cards. And I just pulled out any that I thought I might be able to use. I also pulled out my Ali Edwards 4x6 cards, and there are some red ones in here. These are all Ali Edwards. So I do keep Ali Edwards cards separate because they have a very similar vibe to them, and so I tend to use them together. So I don't sort them by color, I just keep them in one big pile. I tend to use most of my Ali Edwards cards as they come in, so I don't have too many left over. So I also pulled out my 4x6 green cards just to see if I had anything there. I pulled out that one green kind of scallopy one, and there were no red cards that really in the 4x6 size that really spoke to me, so I decided that was it for my kind of card selection. Oh, I need one for under this photo. So I grabbed, again, that Ali Edwards stack, and I found one. I like that one with stars on it. It reminds me of Sophie's personality as well. So I'm going to zoom in just a tiny bit here so that you can see what I'm doing a little bit better, even though you won't see all of those cards that are up above out of screen. So this was a card. It wasn't a holiday card, but it was green and pink, and I just I glued the 3 by 2 inch photo on there, and then I just wrote, "We played Mario Party Superstars on Christmas night." And the photo there is just of all of our little controllers, and also I really like that the coasters were set out, but we hadn't put our drinks out yet, so you got to see those Schitt's Creek coasters, which are cool. I like those. And then the photo that goes beside it is a 3 by 4 inch photo that's just the same capture. It's just from a different angle, and it includes the Christmas tree, so I liked that. I pulled out my Ali Edwards embellishments here. These are just those little 4 by 6 inch chipboard cards. And there was one Christmas themed set there. So I pulled those out, and any other ones that had any red or green on it. There were two that were on like the last chipboard piece on that piece of chipboard backing. So I decided that those two, I would make it my goal to use those in this scrapping session. I didn't use them in this one, but I might use them in the next one. It's going to be tricky because they're not really themed to anything that I'm doing here. So I pulled out my red die cuts. I do sort some of my die cuts by color. And so especially my older die cut sets are sorted by color and stored in those little 4 by 6 little containers that you can get at Michael's. And I had actually a little heart, a felt piece of heart in there. A little heart-shaped piece of felt is what I'm trying to say. So I pulled that out, and I thought it might make a nice Christmas themed embellishment, and I just hand wrote some notes here. I put Christmas night games, but I'm only going to put Christmas night on here because it's clear that we're playing games, and it's also in the journaling right next to it. That is a very thin piece of felt. It's from an embellishment, like a die cut set, and so it's not the felt that I normally use, and the glue just went right through it. So I just placed those two journaling strips in such a way that they covered the glue. So now I have this packaging from an amiibo that I got for Christmas, and I'm going to cut out Zelda's head here, doing some old school shape cutting. And I'm going to use this Zelda head as an embellishment on this card. So I'm just going to cut out the little bit of her ear and hair right here. And I'm just going to place that on the bottom of the card like this, but you can see where there's a hole in her head, and that's because of the little hanger punch out that's in the top of the packaging. That's the amiibo, by the way. I already had Link, and so I got Zelda. They're kind of a bit of a matching set. And so I'm going to glue that in place, and my thought is that I could overlap this Joy chipboard piece, but it's not going to sit very flat because it's 2 layers of chipboard layering on top of one another. So I just very carefully peeled that off. I traced around the Joy sticker before I did so that I could cut a little notch in poor Zelda's head and place the Joy sticker. I did place it a little wonky there. It's not quite as straight as I would have liked it to have been. If you were really concerned about that, you can pull those off because the chipboard separates really easily. So you could just kind of peel off most of it and leave the backing stuck, and then just shift it a little bit and stick it back down again with glue. Would have been fine. Now I wanted to do some journaling strips on green paper, but this is the absolute wrong color of green. So I looked in some other 6x6 paper pads. This is one by Chamel. It's one of her recent, well, I'm going to say recent, but it's probably not recent anymore. It's all of my stash is pretty old at this point. But I'll tell you the collection. It is her Little by Little collection, the 6x6 paper pad. So I'm doing my journaling on here, and it just says a Zelda amiibo, and the pen smeared, so so I had to write amiibo twice. And I switched pens to my Sharpie marker, which is a slick surface writer, and so that kept it from getting smeared the second time. And I'm just going to layer those in a way that they look kind of nice and they stand out quite a bit from all the red on this card and help it have a bit more of a festive feel. I find that even if you're not using holiday themed shapes, if you just pair red and green enough, it gives you a fairly holiday feeling to it. So my journaling here, the card already said thoughts about right now, and my journaling says, although I've finished the game, it's fun to watch Liv play Breath of the Wild. It's the kind of game that you wish you could play all over again, but you can't. And so watching someone else play it brand new is close. Waiting for the sequel is the story of my life right now. It won't be out for a while, so. So then I decided to glue down this card and glue down the photo to the card. And I'm just writing here, Sophie and her Leave Me Alone headphones. I was going to say something about Sophie being an audiophile, and then I looked up what the word audiophile technically means, and it's actually not what I thought. I mean, I kind of knew it meant that, but I thought it means somebody who's like really into the technology of getting very, very high quality audio, and that's not Sophie. She just really loves music and wants to hear it in good quality, but she's not like... Anyways, I changed my mind about what I wanted to say. So now these circle chipboard pieces are my only holiday themed items that are going on this page, and I'm going to spread them around the page because they're so similar to one another. I already used the Joy one on the Zelda card, but I want to make sure that the other ones don't end up all beside one another. So I'm just spreading it around, and I'm also balancing out the reds and the greens, and I'm considering not only the reds and greens in my cards, but also the reds and greens that show up in the photos. And the lights on our trees change color, so depending on when the shot was grabbed, sometimes the tree looks green, sometimes it looks multicolor, and sometimes it looks red, so that gives me a nice variety there. Now this is a logo from the coffee mug that I got for Christmas, and it's actually a little vinyl cutout that I think you're supposed to put on the mug itself, but I'm going to scrapbook with it instead. So it's on this transfer paper, and if you've ever used a Cricut to make vinyl, you know what this process is like. So you just kind of stick it down and then you peel off the transfer paper and the sticker sticks to the thing that's left behind. Like the paper. It's not usually paper that you put vinyl on though. So these are really, really old 3x4 journaling cards that I got from somebody named Craft and Kate. And if you're an old school scrapbooking YouTube viewer, you might remember Craft and Kate. She was a really beloved scrapbooker back in the day. She doesn't scrapbook anymore. I do still follow her on Instagram. But anyhow, she sent me those because I was having a hard time getting that grid, those grid. They're just office supplies, but we just didn't have them here in Canada. We had the lined ones, but not the grid ones. So she sent it to me. And I just cut it down a little bit because I didn't want it to look too much like it was a 3x4 card. Just with those other 3x4 cards all above it, I just wanted it to have a bit of a different shape. I wanted it to be longer and thinner, or shorter and wider maybe. So anyhow, I did some journaling there. It just says, Scott got me an Ember Smart coffee cup, which keeps my coffee at a steady 55 degrees, just right. Just right for me. Most people like their coffee hotter than that, but I like it at that temperature. So here is one of those chipboard pieces, and I have this little stash of what I call roller date stamps, but they're obviously not roller date stamps. They're stamps that you could use in place of a roller date stamp. I actually don't love using those roller date stamps, and I got rid of a lot of mine. I haven't sold them yet, but they're in my pile of things to sell. I much prefer using these. I just find that I can never know what's on the roller date stamps, and I find that I just end up not using it, but I will use them if they're in this format. So just like little tiny phrases and lines and stuff. What I stamped on that chipboard piece there is "Let's Stay In." And I love that these chipboard pieces are not glossy, like they don't have a glossy finish to them, which means that you can stamp on them without using special ink. So here's another card that came from those Ali Edward cards that I picked out at the very beginning. And I'm going to be spelling out Christmas Day using my sassafras letter stickers, which I adore. And I knew that I couldn't fit the word Christmas across here, but for some reason I decided to try anyways. The M in this letter, in this font, is massive, so anything with the letter M in it is not going to fit most places. So I decided to center these, and I'm giving them a bit of a casual, crunchy look, like they're all kind of bunched up and overlapping, but not perfectly. And then I'm just going to use the 7. I'm pretty sure I'll never need a 7, and I have multiple sets of these even if I ever do. So I'm going to use the 7 to make a little hyphen, and then I'll spell out the word day in these green ones. My friend Stephanie gave me these green ones, and I adore them. I'm going to grab my .005 pen, which is what I use for tracing around letter stickers. It's a very, very thin pen, so it fits into all the little crevices between your stickers if you overlap them a lot. And it just gives it a bit of a finished look. I am going to hold it up for you so that you can see the difference. I'm going to hold it up before I finish it so that you'll see some of the letters outlined and some of them not outlined. There, see that difference? I'm just going to outline the mass part of it. It just gives it a nice finished look. You can't really tell from this distance, but as I showed when I held it up, it looks quite a bit nicer. Now, it's kind of plain, so what I thought I'd do is, first of all, I'm going to put the year on, and I have these Ellie's Studio date stamps. This is sort of like a big roller date that's not on a roller either, that I also really, really love. I'm realizing I'm an anti-roller scrapbooker. So there's that, but you know what, that card is still looking a little bit too plain, so what I thought I'd do is dress it up with washi tape the same way I did to that Ember card. I really liked those 2 strips of washi tape, and I used to do that all the time, and so I put a bit of washi tape just in that little gap between the mass and the day. It just seemed like that gap was a little bit too big, and it looked awkward. So at first I thought I'd just put little random strips over here and there, but I didn't like how that looked, so it was just too random. So I wanted to give this some structure, and the way to do it is I'll run a long piece across the top and a long piece across the bottom, and then that piece in the middle just kind of like adds a little bit of interest and a little bit of separation between the word Christmas and the word day. So here's a journaling card that I had picked out. It says, "We did this." And I'm going to do some journaling here. And just off the top of my head, I rarely ever plan out my journaling, but it says, because of the Omicron variant of COVID-19, which was surging worldwide, we were restricted once again and unable to travel to New Glasgow to see family. We bubbled with Jen and Adams, so luckily we were able to have 3 small get-togethers with them. You didn't have to bubble quite that small. You were allowed to get together in groups of 10, but indoors, but we didn't want to. So we were antisocial. And also the New Glasgow people didn't want us anyways because we were coming from the city, and I think that they weren't mean about it or anything, but I think that they just wanted to be safe, and we're happy with that too. So I decided to put that lovely stamp right on Lila's bum because it's a big brown blotch on a big brown spot on the photo. So it's a nice place to put an embellishment because there's not much going on and all the cuteness is in their cute little faces as they're cozying up to one another. So here I have one of my other cats, Rocky. He is behind my brother's Scan and Cut. So 3 of my 4 cats made it into this layout, but Chloe didn't make it. So I put that other round chipboard piece that's from the holiday collection from Ali Edwards, and I made it so that it's kind of going off the edge of the card, and then I did some journaling in between the pluses on that patterned card. And it just says we upgraded our Scan and Cut so Scott could cut his leather projects. Here is Rocky offering emotional support while Scott cuts a watch strap. Rocky never bothers with me when I'm in here, but as soon as Scott comes in to use my Scan and Cut, Rocky comes and stands right beside him until he goes, and then he follows him back out into the dining room, which is where Scott does most of his leather work crafting. So I just cut down that lamp quote. It says, almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. And I just thought that that was a nice card. Kind of goes with the theme of having a restful, quiet Christmas. So I cut that down a little bit because I could tell it wouldn't fit in a 3x4 pocket. And now I have this card with the circles on it. I know I want that, but I wanted something red kind of behind it or beside it. That's not the right shade red. It's too dark. So I went to my stash and got a 6x6 paper pad. This is from Lawn Fawn. It's one of their Christmas collections. And I just keep my 6x6 paper pads in sandwich bags that I cut the Ziplocs off of just to keep any scraps. I just stick the scraps right in the pad and then the Ziploc bag keeps it all together. I am layering the little sticker that comes in this box along with a wrapper from one of the candies in the box, and that looks like an Ellie's Studio little cut apart embellishment piece. So this green thing I think is from my green die cuts. And then this is a sticker that came in the candy box that I'm going to be journaling about. And then that part that says, what does it say? It says happy moments. These are the best happy moments. That's from my stash. I'm attempting to glue a waxy wrapper to things that don't really want to stick to waxy things, but I used my Tombow multi adhesive, and that's a pretty good adhesive for almost anything. I think it's going to stay stuck. So I'm going to do my writing over here on the pink card, and it's going to say, Scott got us a box of international candy from a business he met through work. I should have said a business he discovered through work. He didn't really meet the business, but anyhow, it doesn't matter. Going to underline that, and then I have that weird gap there, so I'll just put a couple of embellishments there to fill the space. I've got a little, these are, I think they're Studio Calico little chipboard circles, and I have a little blue hashtag and a little red that says, let's eat. So you see it's really coming together fairly well here, and it looks like it's pretty much done. I'm talking about how there are spaces. This is a very busy layout, and the photos are particularly busy, as Christmas photos often are. So there are spaces that are nice places for your eye to rest. Now, I thought I was done, and here I just kind of included this footage, pardon me, so I could grab a thumbnail. But I went away and did some things and came back to my scrap room, and what was bothering me is this ember card. It just was too busy, and so I thought what I would do is just put a very, very thin mat around this little grid card. Very, very thin. Too thin, in fact. So, yeah, it's still looking a little too busy. See? It looks good. It looks better. But I thought, no, that's not really what I had in mind. So now, how many layers of paper can you put on this? Well, this many. There's a lot. So there we go. That's more of what I had in mind. So that just kind of it calms your eye a little bit between that busy background on the green card. And then while I had the black cardstock out, I thought, really, this card could benefit from a little strip. And I had this strip already. It was one of the offcuts from that other, matting project that I just did a second ago. So I just used my Zig two-way glue pen to stick that in place, and look at the difference that makes. These little finishing details are so satisfying, and this is why it's sometimes a good idea to walk away from your project but leave it out and then come back to it, and sometimes you'll just think of more things. And look at this. So this card was feeling a little plain too. And so I went back to that same washi tape that I used on the Christmas Day card, and it's very old and brittle, so it keeps tearing, but I'm just gonna very carefully line the edge of that card, and now it has more of a Christmassy feel because it's got some green and it's got some red. The washi tape was just coming off as I stuck it in the pocket. And then while I'm at it, this card here looks a little unfinished as well. And so I'll just cut a couple more strips. The first strip was too angled. I didn't cut it straight, so I cut 3. I only needed 2. So I'm just going to go to my garbage and pick out a piece of scrap paper that I can use for gluing this, and back to my Zig two-way glue pen. It's a great way to add glue to tiny little places. I have a very fine point, and this is my just fine point, and I also have a chisel point. Good to have a variety of different glue pens on hand for different purposes. I got some on my mat, even though I tried to use a scrap paper. So again, that doesn't add such boldness because the background is already dark, but it does give it a little bit of a more finished feel. So now I'm liking this layout. I think that it's ready. So thanks so much for watching, and check out my next spread, which should be the next couple of pages. Take care and have a really great scrappy week.